All right, good morning, folks. Let me tell you what we're going to be doing today, and then we'll jump right into it. Today we're actually going to be changing program. We're going to go from Excel to Access to the database program. Uh, Out of all the four Office applications, Access is one of the most challenging programs. It's probably one of the very few programs where you need to have some theory behind it in order to understand why you do what you do during a database. When you're using a database. So, like I said, I always like to go back, and one of the areas I'm actually going to go back to is web technology and showing you how databases are used in web technologies to offer us the new Web 2.0. In fact, databases have been used for a very, very long time. I guess one can go back to like the 70s, if not even before then, when it comes to like telephone books and the principle there. So let's start back with web technology. And I told you there was three major components of the web. The first one was the protocols. When it comes to the web, the major driving protocol would be HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And remember, protocols are just a list of rules. Another technology that came part of the web would be HTML. So we're going to call this the language of the web. It's a markup language. We'll explore that a little bit later. And then the other component was the ability to, identify or locate resources and linking them together. Now, I wouldn't actually say that a hyperlink is a URL, but a URL is a hyperlink, but they are one and the same, if you will. A URL is a uniform resource locator. A hyperlink is when you use it in a web page so that when you click on it, it'll take you to that. So the ability is that we're linking here. We're connecting resources together. Now, what I'm trying to drive at is this right here, the web page itself. You can think of web pages as being the UI. Remember, last 5 weeks or so we've been discovering software or applications. And then I told you there's a difference between system software and application software. And in system software, the operating system has to provide the user with an interface. And that's what we called the UI. Today, the most common user interface is going to be graphical. When we got in this topic, I said that the internet and the World Wide Web are two different pieces of technology that go hand in hand. The internet back in the day was more like a command line interface. It was text-driven. We called them bulletin board systems. Today, the World Wide Web offers a layer on top of the internet that makes it more user-friendly. Things like hyperlinks allows us to connect things graphically, if you will, together so that you can use your cursor to jump from page to page to page. This becomes really apparent when we get into the underlying technologies. Obviously, we talked about HTML. CSS, cascading style sheets, would deal with style to make the page look attractive. JavaScript, which deals with the interaction, the responsiveness of your page or the page behavior. And then I'm going to say XML, but I'm also going to put /DB. Whoops. You can think of today's web page as just the interface that has layers of technology that offer features, if you will. Like when we first started to use computers, it was just text-driven. And then eventually we moved to visual, imagery, and then audio, then movies. I remember first multimedia PC. Likewise, the web has grown from being static web pages, just nothing but text, to more dynamic, interactive web pages that we can actually run full-blown applications on, which we call web apps. Today is what I want to be focusing on, this concept of a database, and how databases have made sites like Facebook, Twitter, and even webmail popular. When you guys think of databases, what are you thinking of? Because I can tell you, when I was taught databases, we didn't get into the web stuff. We got into like inventory control system. In fact, you guys interact with the database all the time. They're all over the place. And some of the examples I like to use, if I can find one. Nah, that's not in there. Can I borrow your beverage? I always get somebody that has it. Promise I won't drink out of it. What do you guys call this? Barcode. The official name is a UPC, Universal Product Code, correct? Much like a URL, right? Uniform Resource Locator. How has this changed the world? Just this concept. I mean, how old is the barcode? 80s? What happened prior to barcodes? How do we make transactions? What's that, Megan? Okay, so Megan's saying you got to type everything into a machine instead of scanning it. So it makes it really, really convenient that you can take this product, scan it, and you're done, right? Well, what are you done with? Before even we had machines, we always had to keep track of inventory. Why? What's the role of this? You guys are business people. Why should you be keeping track of your inventory? And when I'm using inventory very generically, because inventory could be people working, it could be your products that you sell, it could be the hours that somebody's put into something, correct? So why is it important to keep track of inventory? You know what you have to sell, whether you need to reorder it. You know maybe where your wastes are. So, in other words, as managers, you use this to make decisions, correct? Without data being processed information, you're not going to be able to make informed decisions. Should I be ordering more milk? Well, rewind back to the days when we didn't have computer, and what would happen? What kind of people did we have working for us? We had clerks, stock people, checkout people, managers. But let's talk about clerks and stock people. What would the clerks do? Now, if you're a small mom and pop shop, you probably did everything yourself. So the grocery store is open from 8 to 5, but you didn't go home until 10 o'clock at night. But your hours were 8 to 5. Why did you end up going home at 10 o'clock at night? Where did that extra 5 hours go? You went back through all the shelves, counted up all the items, checked to see if you didn't have any like stolen products, right? What do we call that anyway in business? And you get breakage, shrinkage, there you go. What else did you want to check for? That the books are being balanced, that when this person has tallied up that they sold 5 gallons of milk and you had 10 gallons to sell, that there's 5 left on the shelf, correct? Sort of check and balance. And this was all manually done. And the important thing that we had is we put little price tags on our products, correct? And you'd have to pay the stock boy to run through a little machine that just stickered everything. And they had to dial in. And what if they dialed in like to sell bread at $1 and they left that at $1 and then they went to go sell a TV and they started stickering that too? Yeah, sign me up. In fact, the other day I went to Best Buy and I was buying some memory for my laptop, and on the little sticker, by the way, this is all going to be gone, especially with smartphones. But where they had the RAM up on the pegs, if you will, above the peg with a sticker, and it said on sale $44, normally $65. I went back to the cash register, checked out, and she's like, $100. I bought a few other things. I was like, could you tell me how much that RAM rung up to? And she's $65. So back on the shelf, it said $44. She's like, well, can you take me to it? So I took her to it, and she was like, ooh, that was this weekend. See, some stock boy forgot to peel that off. So right then at that spot, she peeled that off, and she goes, well, I guess you get it for that price. And she took it back with her. And then she had to call somebody to say, okay, we'll put the new price on there. You see that paper stuff? So we love barcodes. Because if that stuff can be linked to a record in a database, then that can be changing all the time. This is why Walmart allows us or can say that they guarantee the lowest price. Because it takes them no time to update their databases. And that when you scan that product in, what happens there is that they look for this unique identifier. They jump into the database and they pull the current price that's there. Now, with the advent of web technology and big businesses accepting this, they opened up their database to the public. You go to Walmart.com, what you're really doing is interacting with the same database that those checkout people use all the time. And with technology, we can offer on our web pages using this interactive stuff, all this web tech, that you can type in your zip code. It'll find the local store and tell you how much is available. I'm working on this project that requires a lot of PVC joints, and I needed like 100 elbows, little 3/4 inch, 90-degree elbows for my plumbing project that I'm working on. And so I put in my zip code for Lowe's, they had 20. Put in my zip code for Home Depot, they had 70. So here I am jumping all over the place, piecemealing this thing, and I'm 5 short. But I thought it was pretty cool that I went to their webpage before I left the house, and they told me that they have exactly 70 of these elbows. And you know what's great about it? I said, order, I'll pick up. So you know what that meant? I didn't have to go there and count 1, 2, 3, 4. I had somebody do that while I'm driving to go to Home Depot, and it sat there on the counter at customer service, and I just picked it up. I paid for it online, picked it up after work, and somebody counted all 70 of those elbows. But the point is that we're sharing this database. And I talked about this with you with some of the ethics concerns when it comes to web technology, right? Because I asked you guys, how does Facebook make a living? All of your posts and everything goes to this concept called a database, this warehouse. And what do they do with that information? They sell it. Because what have you guys told me about all this stuff? We need to make decisions based off of the data that's stored here. And if that decision you make is going to cost your company $1 million, maybe it's worth at least $1 million to buy it. Right? So that's what I want to focus on. I want you guys to think that databases do not only entail web technology, but because of the advent of the web, databases have become increasingly popular. What does that mean about you as a future employee of this new digital society? Why are you guys taking this class? And why have I been exploring some advanced topics that are usually focused to computer people? It's called what? Escalation. As criminals become smarter, what must our law enforcement be? And that's the advent of FBI. Right? So let's talk about this. Why is it important for you guys to have this down? In the information era, content is king. And in this day and age, you must be able to master information. And that is organize it, manipulate it, and process it. So let's talk about it. Databases generally consist of 4 components. Tables. By the way, database people are very anal and very structured, very organized. And the reason behind this is by having structure, you have what? Dependability, reliability. Having it organized gives you what as an advantage? Get to it quicker. We're talking about massive amounts of data, right, folks? And when you want to make a decision, you want to be able to find that. If somebody scans a product and it's a checkout line and it's talking about Christmas or holiday shopping and there's a million people behind it, you expect that when that machine goes beep, they came up with a price, correct? Otherwise, what would happen when they scan the UPC and it doesn't come up with the price? You gotta pause, stop the whole line, call somebody up, or get off your own ass and walk over to the aisle and check to see what it was marked for. Tables, queries, forms, and reports. Are the 4 major components of a common database. In fact, we usually call them database management systems. And in today's technology, because there's a whole slew of different types of databases, we have what we call relational database management systems. So DBMS is typically the initials that you would see here. And these are just tools like Microsoft Access that gives us the abilities of either storing data, questioning the data, ways to enter in data into the database, and ways to print the information out of the database. Now what I like to do is I like to show you guys a graphical representation of this. Much like I did with like the user interacting with the operating system and the operating system interacting with the hardware and software. By the way, I believe you guys have an exam coming up. Is that right? Exam 2? If I remember correctly, next week is our last week before we go to break. So I think next Thursday, check the syllabus, there's an exam. So you see I'm throwing a lot of the stuff that we've been going over for the last 5 weeks into this. So I'm sort of integrating a review for you guys. So this is the way I like to do it. Tables are the heart or the foundation of any database. One topic, one table. We'll get more into that when we start building our Access database in a second. But I want you guys to get this foundation part. Data comes in. Now, in a moment, I'm going to change that arrow. But for now, data is stored in a table. The heart of a database is data. In fact, the first 4 letters of databases are data. So obviously, there has to be an object whose sole responsibility is to house the data. I like to think of tables as being like departments. You can buy just about anything at Walmart, it seems. Call these what? Supermarket places or whatever. So what does Walmart do to make your shopping experience a little bit more pleasant? They sort of organize things and section it off. So that when you guys are looking for batteries, where might you look at? Electronics? When you guys are looking for milk or eggs, where might you look at? Grocery? What about cigarettes? Health and beauty? I believe they're not allowed to sell at any other place but right near a cash register because they have to card that, if I remember correctly. But the whole idea is organization. You don't mix things together. You try to say this belongs there, but there are products that sort of like fall halfway in between. And Can you guys give me an example one by chance? Some that might belong. What's this? Lighters? Yeah, I guess that would work in there, right? Because, right? They have some really long shaft lighters for maybe lighting fireplaces or whatever. Then they have the short ones. So yeah, lighters would be a one where it's like, where does it go? What do we do with that? We sort of put it in multiple places. So when we get into this, it is possible for data that goes in one table might also go into another table. You have to be very careful of redundancy, okay? If tables are the heart of a database, everything else has to build on top of that. Whoops. One of those things is going to be queries. Queries begin with a Q, so does questions. Ultimately, if you're going to store something, you're going to store it because you have a purpose to store it. As managers, you get to decide what's important, what's not important. How do you make that decision? Because the data that you need to be able to determine what to pay your employees must be kept track of. The fact is, I said what you need to pay your employees. The what institutes a question. What do you use as a manager to determine how to pay your employees? Possibly. You're getting a little out there, far advanced. Basically, you can pay your employees with two different methods, right? There's salary or they're hourly, correct? If it's going to be a salary employee, then you might do what Adam suggested. And that is do some research to see what the average clerk or whoever, whatever, gets paid in that region. And you look at job descriptions and you try to get them to match up, correct? But if we're running a McDonald's or a Walmart and we have hourly employees, you don't go by that rule, right? Legally, there's a bare minimum we're allowed to pay our hourly employees. So why don't we start there, correct? What is that? It's interesting because it can vary by state. Federally, the minimum is this, but every state can add to that, correct? And when you work internationally, let alone across all the states, you might need to keep track of the different minimum wages for different states, correct? That's data. You need to have that. You need to have access to that. Now, of course, with the advent of the web, we say just go out there and fetch it. As you guys saw on Tuesday, we made a little app inside of our spreadsheet that went out there and grabbed the tickers for each stock. So, yes, you can write apps for databases that could do that. But the important thing is I'm going through this business model. And I'm saying in order for me to pay my employees, I need to have the number of hours they work per week, correct? Hence, this is why hourly employees do time cards. And they probably use some special equipment, so they punch their cards in, or maybe scan their name tag. And then they scan it when they take break, or they scan it when they come back. The idea is that we are logging them in and out so that at the end of the week, we can push a button that prints out the paycheck. Everybody's good about that? So a query might be, what did so-and-so earn this week? How much must I pay so-and-so? In order to answer that, the query goes to all these multiple tables, finds out that employee's name, the hours that they work, their hourly rate, to come up with their totals. So far, so good? Queries, questions. It's what you get generated. Now, you might not know how to make them, or your future employers might not allow you to make queries. So you might sit in a meeting and say, look, there's some way that I can keep track of. Blah, blah, blah. By the way, marketing people are constantly drilling databases. Think about it. Marketing is more of just glorified research. Is that correct? When you're coming up with ads, commercials, whatever, announcements. You find a target audience. How might you find that target audience? You have a particular product. Sorry, Adam, I'm going to steal this from you. This is not marketed to my generation. Why not? How old do you think I am, Morgan? I got a word for you that begins with the letter F. Wow! I've never been insulted before like that. Somebody's getting an F.
More than 25.
So what you're saying is this is generated between what? 18 to 25? What do you got? You guys tell me. I'm not a business person. I'm not a marketing, and it's a little. And Adam's in my generation. I see him. He's drinking this crap. But any case, who are they marketing to? Teenagers. Why? I mean, I'm looking at it. It says energy. Teenagers. Really? If you go to bed just a little earlier, you'll have all the energy in the world. I mean, they bounce. You might as well market this to 5-year-olds. I mean, to me, your energy just stays pretty. I mean, maybe you guys should be marketing this in my generation because I think after 30, thank you, Morgan, your energy starts to, steep off. But why are you marketing that, and how do you find that out? I mean, what's the whole reason behind it? Notice how I gave it a taboo, maybe? And maybe you're thinking that there's that certain age group that looks for something that they can just go out and do and define. I have no clue. But the idea is, how do you find this out? You buy that data off of Facebook. I mean, if 1 million people are saying, I love this beverage, what's the next question to ask? Who are those millions of people that like this beverage? Where do you get that? How do you get that? Getting the idea? Every time you guys use a search engine, you are creating a query. That query is going to go in here to their tables that they have managed to gather as their little web crawlers go around. We call them spiders. And they read every web page put out there on the internet. Now, depending on what search engine you're using, determines what's important and what's not, what goes in their tables and what doesn't. So obviously, when you guys do a query, you're going to get different results per every different search engine. Because their program or algorithm that tells these spiders what to classify and what not. I think that's pretty cute. We're talking about the web. So what crawls on webs? Getting the idea? And what do these spiders do? They just gather data and put it in the table so that we can create queries. Now, whip-de-doo, you have answered your question, but that means nothing. You're wondering what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. Fine. You go to Google, you find out. You type in weather, then your zip code. What are you going to do with that information? Decide what to wear, right? That's what the next, I guess I got ahead of myself. I guess the order doesn't really matter. And what I'm going to do is just put these here like this and call this forms, which isn't where I was supposed to go. I just got ahead of myself. And then, as you can see here, we'll call this reports. See, queries build on top of tables. Forms can be built on top of queries or tables, and reports can be built on top of queries as well as tables. Do you see reports and forms are sort of like one of the same? That they build off of these two objects? See, this object gives you the answer. These two objects differ in the sense of the difference between input and output. A form you guys filled out on the web, especially when you're looking for jobs or you're buying something. A form is more of a tool used for the user to input data into a database. Okay? They can be all different shapes and sizes and the different layouts. But the idea is you want to try to gather data, collect data from your user. Anytime that's happening, it's happening through a form. When that's happening, you're dealing with that UI interface. So I guess you can say web pages are like forms, if you will. But what about reports? Reports is the information coming out of a database. You do your monthly reports. You might do your inventory reports. Typically, they are printed out, which I always thought was funny. But they don't absolutely have to be. Like, for instance, Google stores information in a table. You query the weather, correct? The fact that you're querying it and using their web page consists of forms that use the query to collect the data. But then they send it back out to you on the same web page, correct? So when you first go to Google's website, all you see is a text box. Maybe a fancy little doodle. And then the search button, correct? That's their form. When you hit search, you execute a query. The query comes, grabs the data, and then it loads to a new web page, correct? You get a list of all the different results. I guess one could argue that's the report, them giving back to you to answer your question. Now, it doesn't necessarily do the work for you in the sense it's going to write out your paper, correct? They're displaying stuff that you will have to manipulate. Now, I say this because isn't that the next step, the next evolution of databases? Think about this. When you have kids, you first start off teaching them how to dress. And the way we do that is we just dress them, correct? Does any of your kids ask you, why do I have to wear this? Why do I have to wear that? Because tomorrow it's going to be 180 degrees and maybe wearing my snowsuit isn't appropriate, Mom or Dad? No, they blindly trust you, correct? But what happens over the years? How do you guys start dressing? What makes those decisions? Well, one, it has to look good, correct? Two, it's got to make you feel good. But what's the third one? You look pretty damn funny if it's 4th of July and you're walking around with snow boots and a snowsuit and a head warmer, right? Not only that, but you're probably going to be sweating like you wouldn't believe. So we do use the weather. And we do try to make an educated guess, but the point is there's this process that's being involved, correct? I told you guys programming is like teaching machines something. It's like knowledge for computers. Isn't that what software is? So if all this stuff can be organized in a structured approach, could we not teach machines what to wear and when to wear it? Hell, could we not hold our button on our iPhone saying, Siri, what's the weather going to be for tomorrow? And instead of Siri telling me 78 degrees, it says, Nick, tomorrow is a great day to wear shorts. Why else would you care about to ask about the weather? If you ask Siri, by the way, that's that sort of like AI for Apple phones, but whatever you want to use. Because this is what we're getting into, artificial intelligence. Because one could ask, what is intelligence? How do you guys know what fire feels like? How do you know what color this is? How do you know that this makes a word? You've been indoctrinated over these years. Some of you are still learning. But you build this data and you store it. All those years when you're younger, your mind's like a sponge and you memorize everything and you associate that this color here is this word here. And it's amazing because we are having huge revolutionary changes to the way we organize data for a machine. To the point now where we're having business intelligence software or business assistant software. Now I say this because I always like using the weather. The weather is very fascinating because we try to predict the weather. How do we make predictions? Off of prior experiences. But what affects the weather? If a bird flaps its wings in California, will that cause a tornado in Kansas? So there's all these millions of factors that we have to go into predicting the weather. And so we collect all this data, and we collect it all over the world. And now we can share this data instantly with the web. And so then we have these machines with huge processing power that takes all this data and makes an educated guess and tells you that tomorrow it's going to be 78 degrees. Now, I don't know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. I'm just making that number up. So please, don't come wearing shorts. Hell, yesterday was the first day of spring, and today it feels like it's the first day of winter. But the point that I'm trying to drive to you is, as business people, you guys in your lifetime will ask your computer, should I be marketing this beverage to 30-somethings? Pretty fascinating, because that's what your boss does to you today. Adam, your job this week or this month or this quarter is determine whether or not we should be marketing that product to 30-somethings. First thing Adam's probably going to do is jump on Google and do what?
Do a 30-year-old people think is cool or popular.
I'm not going there. I'm going to get in trouble. I know. I'm just itching this whole semester about that. But yeah, there is something that entails that you're going to be actually collecting data. And hence the need of building your own database. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to take this theory that we're trying to lay out for you and show you guys with access how to collect that data and build it so that you can create a report to show your, I hate calling them superiors, but supervisors, why you feel one way or another against it. And today, our society is nothing but data driven. Don't ever tell your boss you have a hunch on something, because he's got a guarantee to fire you. We don't make billion-dollar decisions based off of hunches anymore. We do it off of data. Because if everything's being collected, organized, then there's got to be something out there to support your reasoning. So how do we collect it? We need to organize it. We need to structure the data so that we can reference it. By the way, the goal of any database administrator is to reduce redundancy. We'll talk about that later. Well, tables consist of records. You guys might want to call these rows. I want to break away from that terminology. They sort of look like rows, but they don't necessarily have to be in a row format. That's the nice thing about forms. What is a record? A record is a group of related fields. So what's a field? Field is the smallest piece of data stored in a table. In a record, there's going to be a special field called a PK, or a primary key. Earlier today, I used the example of a barcode, of a UPC. Primary key is used to identify a unique record. No two records, and I can't say this enough, no two records in a table can have the same primary key. Can you guys give me examples other than UPCs that might be used to identify whether it's a person, a product, a place, or a thing? Social security number. No two people currently living, can have the same SSN number. What else? By the way, do you see how I said a person, place, or thing? So it's almost like tables keep track of nouns, if you will. Driver's license number? Interesting, though. I'm a Pennsylvania resident. Adam, New York or PA? New York? You're going to have a driver's license number, right? I'm going to have one. Driver's licenses are issued by states, correct? Could it be possible that you and I could have the same? Let's shits and giggles. Why don't you get yours out? We'll compare. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Just going to get there. Thank you. Identity theft. Here we come. Oh, my camera. All right, take a picture of that. No. All right. As I can see, your driver's license number is one extra digit than PA. Means more possibilities. It must mean New York City has a bunch of people in it compared to what PA can have, right? But drivers, I'm not showing you guys that one. Identity theft. That's all it takes. And that's what I'm trying to illustrate here. But yes, a driver's license could work as a unique identifier within a state database. Okay? Now, state databases are shared. So that when you get pulled over in Hawaii, they can get all your record. In fact, it's getting really interesting because in New York, they sort of like tried this thing out. You guys have what they call an RFID tag built into your license. You ever look at your driver's license, there's like a metal line that swirls around? Yeah, my one credit card had that. It's still there. I don't know if you guys can see where it's at. Yeah, nice. But do you see the little lines going up through there? It's funny, I always have to cover that. But what that is a glorified antenna. And you could theoretically check out at Walmart if they had the technology without even whipping out your credit card and scanning it. What are they trying to drive at? They want to replace barcodes with these RFID tags. So you can leave all your products in your shopping cart and zip right through the front door. And they say, instead of, we're sorry you've activated the Walmart inventory control system, they say, thank you for shopping at Walmart. Come back. That would save a lot of time. Of course, we have the ethical dilemma about hiring people, correct? So the principle in these radio frequencies, this wireless identification system, is that before a police officer can get out of their car, they know all the licensed drivers that are in that vehicle and what their criminal record is. They just hit a button, scan that car, and then all these little RFID tags say, here's my number, and then the police car's computer goes out on the internet, if you will, accesses all this information in the database, and says so-and-so. So we got to be careful about primary keys because primary keys are used to uniquely identify a record in a table, but they can become foreign keys in other tables. As I'm trying to illustrate this with driver's license, each state has a database of licensed drivers. Their databases are shared with other states. Hence the word foreign. I'm a native Pennsylvania driver, so I'll be in the native Pennsylvania database, correct? But if I were to travel in New York, I would become a foreign driver. And so that they, when they do a search, will recognize this is Pennsylvania, that they have to access that database through their interface. We clear about that? So sometimes we make composite primary keys. That would be like the state plus the driver's license to make them unique across the board. Now, foreign keys and primary keys are really important because they help to establish relationships between tables. We'll get into those relationships in a second. But I want to drive out these components. Understanding this will make your life a lot easier when you guys are using Access. Because we are talking about methods of organization. A table is only responsible for one subject matter or one topic. You as a manager have to decide what pieces of information you feel is important for that topic. And you might sit in meeting after meeting and meeting, bouncing ideas off each other, saying, what do we need to keep track of? What's relative to what we're trying to accomplish here? What is our mission statement? So if we go back to Adam's marketing campaign, what topics do you think Adam needs to keep track of? In fact, let me write it over here. So Adam, what topics would you use to conduct your research? Age is not a topic. Age is a description or a piece of detail per a topic, right? I mean, everything has an age to it. My cheese in my refrigerator has an age to it. Yeah, you're looking at me funny, but it does. I mean, how do you know when to eat something or not? Milk has an age to it. When it expires, throw it out. So, age would be an example of a field. It's a small piece of data that's going to represent the topic. So you got to think more general here. What are your topics that you want to conduct to do this? Obviously, if you're selling this product, you're selling it to who? To fill in the noun. People. So, you want to think of potential customers. That's a topic. Or a table. What else do you want to think of? What else do you need to keep track of? Excuse me? Okay, so it's the product itself, right? That's another topic. So you gave me something like quantity, which would be a field. But we got to think more general, more global. We good there? Because remember, potential customers, you're just going to store everybody because everybody's a potential customer, correct? Products. It might be the same damn recipe, just rebrand. And we'll just call it, since Morgan said that my generation's all about the coffee, we'll just call it Starbucks Plus or something like that. Now it doesn't have the word energy drink, so it doesn't have that negative association to it, or whatever the case may be, because this is what we're marketing. Well, there's something. What about associations or perceptions, or what would we call that? Isn't that a topic itself? That when you go to conduct your survey, maybe one of the questions on your survey might be, I wouldn't necessarily say the opinion of the energy drink, but maybe, let's say it. We'll keep it simple. What are your thoughts or opinions on energy drink? That needs to be collected, correct? Now, we always want to rate things from like 1 to 5. Why is that when we do surveys? Makes it easier to process or collect the data, correct? So we could do that. We could say 0, your least beverage choice, or despise energy drink, to 5, you're very fond of the energy drink. So that would have to be a table. Maybe we call it thoughts. Or whatever. The point is, you're the architect. What Walmart calls lawn and gardens, Target might call house care. As the architect, you get to decide how you're going to divide this warehouse, this huge amounts of data, and how it's going to be organized. But when you are conducting this market research, before you go out there and conduct it, you have to come up with questions. Those questions are going to be giving you answers. Those answers have to be stored somewhere. And those questions that you come up with could probably be classified. Like, when you talk about the customers, some questions you might ask, what's your age? Right? Now, assuming that your company spent some money on preliminary data, so that when you send out the survey, you're not wasting money because you can target it, your audience, correct? So maybe they went on Facebook and they said, look, for $1 million, we want a list of all your 30-somethings. Do you still have to ask this question as what your age is? People lie all the time on Facebook, correct? So it's maybe a way to verify that they are who they are, if they will. Maybe their friend maybe the person you're conducting the survey on gave this survey to somebody else who might not be in your age group. So yes, you need this because you need to make a decision. Are they in your audience? Okay? That becomes a field. What else might we need from these people? Ooh. Let's do a survey here. Let's see. How many people drink energy drinks? Let's just keep it generic. Out of these hands, I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for being a tiebreaker. All right, so I have more males than females. I know it's a small little audience, granted. But what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, maybe gender could be important because if there's like a 90% to 10%, 90% being females or 90% being males, sorry for the other 10%. Correct? Maybe we'll address your kind later. But for now, we want to make the most money we possibly can, and it looks like 90% of our market is towards a particular gender. Happens all the time. Okay? What else do you guys want to keep track for customers? See, this is the hard part about Access. When I show you how to use Access, it's somewhere like that. But once you have a good foundation of how to organize your thoughts, you'll have a good foundation on how to organize your database.
Maybe their location.
Shoot, why not? Right? Hell, what's one way you can be giving them an incentive? Well, if you fill out the survey, we're going to be able to send you a $10 check in the mail. We're not going to do PayPal. We're going to send it to you in the mail. Why would we do something like that? Now we have their address, and now they'll be more willing to give us their address. Now that we have this address, we might send them samples. Tell us what you think. It's all about data mining. Like I say, hackers, negative association, negative connotation. I like calling them social engineers. They know how to create good forms. They know how to ask the question in a way that somebody would be more likely to answer it. This might be that situation. Tell me your address so I can send you a $10 gift card in the mail. Now that you have that, what's to stop you from actually using it? I hate when that happens. All right, so now I gotta give my camera a second. I hate this. When the lights go out, it always like knocks the audio out of sync. But in any case, what else do you guys see as a relative? You don't see this as being important? Hell, I might even throw this in here. And I'm not talking about your dog or cat's name. I'm talking about whatever your significant other calls you. By the way, that's why I love reading emails. It's amazing what you guys call each other. And then I'd collect that data. And what's really cool about it is with that data, I can write a program to generate an email using your pet name and whatever the subject line could be. And then when you guys get that email, you'll be more likely to what? Open it up, because it seems like it's very natural that a person wrote it, and it's somebody that you know because they called you, fill in the blank. I'm afraid to say something. You getting the idea though, right? How do they know that's me other than that they must be one of my friends? And this happens all the time with Facebook, because isn't that how you guys say that? I mean, Facebook's all about the personal connection. It's about using technology to feel like a person. So we buy that from Facebook. We write code that reads millions and millions of postings. And we look for a trend. I want to collect that. Because when I send out my either survey or product, I want them to be able to open it up. Because I know the more people that open this up, the greater the success of my product will be. So you gotta get creative. You have to determine what's important and what's not. And don't get too creative and say everything's important. Because everything is not a field. We need to structure this. Gender, age, address, email, name, all grouped together to create a single record, which in this case would be a single customer. And you always have to ask yourself a question. Is that what all customers have in common? You might not ask this, because maybe all your customers don't have a car. But all your customers should have a name. Would all your customers have emails? So maybe that is one that we don't put in there. Will they all have a gender? Sure hope so. Would religion be a good question to ask? No. Why not? So maybe you make it optional. But could religion ultimately determine whether or not, because by the way, if you're making beer, it has a big impact of who you're selling it to, because you're not going to sell it to the Muslims, right? And if you're making pork products, that excludes another branch of people. I'm not asking them to have a conversation with me. All I'm doing is making sure that I don't offend them. I'm deciding that I want to make an alcohol beverage. I don't want to be sending it to some radical Muslim and they get pissed off at me because I offended them by offering them a discount to buy my beer. And if it's costing me money to send this out, that's one less person I know is not going to buy my product. The point is that when I do these fields, I need to make sure that all my customers have those, right? And that each of these fields, when grouped together, creates a record that identifies a single individual.
You're asking about like their favorite music, favorite television shows.
See, now that's great. Because now maybe we can make association to all those MTV people out there that they might be in energy. Or maybe all those rock people, that people that are into rock music, might prefer energy drinks over than somebody's in country.
If you found like all these people like one certain television show, the most you could advertise your product.
There you go. You guys are seeing this now on how we conduct that? So absolutely, this is your database. Whatever your survey is and how effective your survey is, it all depends on your imagination. This class isn't about your imagination or not about telling you how to create surveys. What it's about is telling you how to organize the data that you will gather when you create those surveys. Good there? Okay. What about products? So those would be the fields that we might use to create a table called customers. What about products? By the way, this is all the preliminary stuff. Just like when we were programming, we just wrote this thing out like in pseudocode. Likewise, we're doing the same thing here. Name. I don't know why I'm capitalizing that. Every product's going to have a name. Maybe the company. They might not know that, but you can definitely find that out. Because it's not only the survey stuff, but it's also you. You're going to be using this database. You might find there's a common thread that a particular company, whether it's Pepsi or Coca-Cola, are selling more energy drinks than the other, so you might just try to sample what their key ingredient is. Hell, it still might be Coke, who knows? Isn't that what they used back in the day? Energy drink, it sort of works. It's appropriate, and maybe not one of, but in any case. What about cost? Why is that important for your survey? Remember, folks, price is a funny thing. You can follow it in economics where supply meets the demand, correct? But price is the willingness of somebody to purchase your goods. You can come out with this great energy drink and it's going to cost $100. Do you think many people are going to buy it? So that's where that demand comes in, correct? So ultimately, as you lower the price, what should happen to demand? It should increase. But why would you want to play the guessing game? Set up high and work your way down when you can get the general average price of what energy drinks are going for. Because your customers might not be able to uniquely identify your energy drink right off the bat. So you don't want to make your energy drink too high or too low with what's already on the market, correct? So while you're doing this, is ask them, what do you pay on average for your energy drink? Or as you are conducting research, this might not be survey. This might be you going out and checking your competitors and seeing that, well, Adam, how much did this cost you today? $350. $350?
Yeah.
Does it make your hair grow?
No.
I'm not buying it. It's not worth it. Not $350. I'm sorry. Bottled water is a lot cheaper than that, and people give me shit for buying water. So, wow. So that's something I might want to put in there. What else? Yeah. I'll call it loosely as quantity. But on average, Adam, how many of those do you buy a day? Just one a day? But a day, right? It's your routine habit? So that's like $22 a week.
Yeah.
It's almost $100 a month. No wonder why. Who makes this? Got a problem. This is a Coca-Cola one, I think it's it. I don't know. What is it? This, oh, Pepsi. I can't read that. You guys get the idea. Is it Coke? Yeah. I gotta invest in Coke stocks. Probably too late now. I know energy's been around for a while. But, yeah, and it's that trade-off. Well, for one can, you get, 5 cups? Is that what you feel like?
Yeah.
How much does Coke go for on the street? No, I'm just kidding. So here we go. What else might you feel important? And it's all on you. But I think that's generally a good thing to describe a single product. A single product in our table called products must have a name, a company that makes it, the price they're going for, and how much people consume. Right? And that might be a yearly stat, might be a monthly stat, and you might even do that. You might say monthly, yearly, weekly, whatever. The point is that that's going to help you ultimately reach your goal. Remember, our goal is to determine whether or not this is worth selling to 30-year-olds. Correct? Now, quantity, I'm going to circle because you're going to find that is going to go into a mixed table. Because not everybody drinks one a day. Maybe two, maybe people drink 2 a day. So I might mix this out to another table that sort of connects products and customers together. Let's call that the consumption table. Yeah, I'll just abbreviate that. And what consumption's going to have, it's going to have maybe the customer's name. Just doing some abbreviation. The product name. We'll just measure quantity. I guess I'll still leave it like that. And then maybe a time or a date. A frequency. Let's call it frequency. You getting the idea? Why would I make a table called consumption to join these two together? So customers and products are being joined together through consumptions. Because not everybody, the show of hands, does everybody in this classroom drink this? Is this your energy drink of choice? So what would happen when you go to do your survey or you go to collect your data? This would be empty for that particular product, right? Because this is per product. A record for the products table is a per product thing. So I don't like it putting it here because it's going to leave some vacancies. So when you generate your report, you're going to have holes in it, correct? Over here, I like it because, Adam, is that the only energy drink you drink? So I can have multiple products in here from the same customer, finding out that maybe Adam prefers this over that. But when they run out of that, he jumps to this. Do you see where that table comes in? And you see the relationship between customers and products? See, each table is one topic, and they represent an entity. Don't mix them together. Do not add up here the name of the products to the customers, because customers can have more than one product, correct? Or consume more than one product. And that's what we use here. If you can put it in a sentence, you can break the sentence down. Example is, a customer can consume more than one product. Customer's a noun. Product is a noun. What is consumption? An activity, right? And doesn't the verb join the two together? So, this is your joining table to connect these two together. What about thoughts? Because in this idea of collecting data, I want to see if there's a common trend, right? So I might want to make another table called opinions. And opinions would connect customers to their reviews or their thoughts, or maybe call the table reviews. You get the idea? So I can join these things together. Folks, your tables in your database better be connected to at least another table. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to have that table. No man is an island, as the saying goes, correct? Let me put it in perspective using a business model. In order for you guys to be in business, what must you have? Throw that in the toilet. There, that's what I'm looking for. You need customers, products, interesting how they relate. What else are you guys going to need if you're in business? I like resources, but give me an example of resource. Because products is a resource. Employees. Now, accountants keep their own books. I'm talking about the general model. So, just to keep things up and running. Anything else you think we might need? We got customers, products, employees. Let's throw that. We're just selling. We're not producing. See, it all depends on your business, right, folks? I'm happy with these three. Let's keep it simple. And using a sentence, tie those three together, because those are tables, correct? Use a sentence and tie these three tables together. Can you do that? Can you guys write out a nice sentence to explain the relationship between these three tables? Give me one. Employees sell products. Anytime you sell something, it becomes a transaction. Products, right? Employees sell products to customers. Do you see I had to make a new table to get these three tables to play nicely? How do I group these three tables together? We take each primary key from each of these tables. Because what's a primary key? And what do all employees have? Employee ID number. This is why we don't use social security numbers. And by the way, HR might have a separate one to tie employees to their actual relationship. So if somebody hacks this database, they're not getting your SSN numbers. Okay, now customers become interesting. How do we uniquely identify customers? Their what number? That's going to go here to identify that transaction. So we're going to call that an invoice number. How do we identify, uniquely identify? Because you know what? I always love sharing the story with my brother, or to my class about my older brother. We always used to do practical jokes with each other, and this is like back in the 90s. And I got grounded for like a whole month, and I was wondering what the hell I did wrong. And my older brother sent one of those surveys into Victoria's Secrets and put my name in there, but just slightly altered it. I mean, you know, just NIC, I guess, like Nicole or Nick or whatever. You get the idea. And I just started getting these Victoria's Secret catalogs to the house all the time. And I didn't know what to do with them, so I kept on throwing them out. But then my dad's like, what the hell are you doing with all these magazines? And I'm like, nothing. I don't even know where they're coming from. And like 5 years later, my brother tells me, hey, remember, all those magazines? Well, that's because I filled this out for you. How do customers or companies reach out to their employees to send them this stuff? Because that's what we're at now. We're all about smart advertisement. I mean, I get things from PetSmart all the time, and I love it. I have a yellow lab. Great. They know I have a yellow lab, and they send me products that are specialized to yellow labs. That's the other thing you'll find out about society. We're generating little obsessive compulsive freaks. We don't make just an energy drink. No, we make an energy drink that's catered to the rock star, that's catered to the athlete, that's catered to something else. They're probably all the same damn thing, but they're just slightly branded differently because we feel in today's society that a hammer is only used for pounding nails. It has a single purpose. And so PetSmart's like, hell, if people are that anal, we will make or sell dog food by breed types. And they do this, folks. And you might look at the ingredients and say, oh, it's only 2 grams more protein for this breed. But they're going to charge you $10 because it's a specialty item. Now, how do they know I have a yellow lab? How do they know where to send this pamphlet or brochure to me? Left my keys in my other car. There you go. We'll give you a little percentage off. And when you fill out that application, you get that Shoppers Club card. Yes. Why would a cell phone number be? It's a unique identifier, correct? You guys cannot share the same cell phone number. A house number, you can. A mailing address, you can. What else don't you share? Email? And don't they ask you for that? I always like making one up. Screw those marketing people up. What else? That you don't have to ask for, that customers are willing to give to you freely. And this is why we get a bunch of trouble when these databases are cracked. Oh, let me add this to it too. Do you share your credit card number with other people? In essence, isn't a credit card number a unique identifier per person? And with that number, what can that company do? It's all about data mining. They go to the credit card company and say, look, I need so-and-so's name and address. Will they ask them why? If they do, you can always lie. Their credit card failed, and I need to send them a bill. For all they know, that's legitimate. What might you send? A new product that you're trying to sell. Makes sense? We know how to identify products through their UPCs. And so with this, we can create queries. Because our database is going to grow. It's going to get huge if we're a successful business. And we are going to run queries based off of customers because we're going to tie this in with the transaction plus what they bought. We could use this maybe in the query, maybe not. But really all I care about is getting more to customers. And so I'll go through this transaction table, run a query, and say in the last month, what was our most popular product? Maybe I need to give myself more shelf space for this product. Maybe it's a seasonal product. So maybe next year I better plan ahead. Maybe I could correlate this with another product called inventory. Inventory isn't going to be connected to that. It's going to be connected to this table. Why would I connect inventories to products? Folks, there could be products that you guys no longer sell, but you need to keep them in your database. Why? Because if a customer comes back a year from now and says, I bought this product from you, you can look it up. Inventory is really like the real-time product database. It'll associate the product ID number with the active stuff. In fact, when you go to check out and they scan the UPC, the machine will go into the inventory and minus the quantity that you purchased. Where's quantity being stored at? Up here in the transaction table, right? Why not here in the product table? All I care about is the name of the product, their barcode, not their price. What happens with price over time? Price will go here, right? Company that I bought this product from, a vendor. Why am I separating vendor from product? What would be in the vendors table? Name of the company, their address, their phone number. Could I also tie it to this table here too? Why would I want to do that? This table is still our inventory. They might have another one that I could have access to. But why do I want to tie the vendor to the inventory as well as the product? That would be in here, in association with the product. So when you said when I ran out of something, when I ran out of milk, contact this person because there's association between them. There's a link. Why would I connect these two together? That might go to another table, accounts payable. Do you guys only shop at Walmart? If you're a business person, you're going to be a prick at times. And you're going to tell this one vendor, why should I buy that from you when this other vendor is going to give me 10% off? right? When you buy, you're building up your inventory, correct? So you need to stamp the vendor because maybe that milk was bought at this individual at one time, and then a month later it was bought at another company another time. Because they're the ones that offered you the lowest price. Does that make sense? That's the key with all this database stuff, is how to organize all of the business model into topics. You see I'm just bouncing this out? By the way, this has a name. It's called Entity Relation Diagram, ERD. We are looking at the different parts that make up our business. Because we know to be a business person, we need to pay our bills, we need to stock our shelves, we need to have customers, and we need to have employees that make that happen. By the way, would your employees keep on working for you if you didn't keep track of another thing? What should be connected to the employees table if you guys are responsible business owners? What's that? Hours worked. Is that the only thing that should be tied to the employees table? Interesting. Would it be smart to put their hourly rate within their table? Let's call this job description. Or jobs. I was watching a TV show the other day and they got into some really philosophical questions, and it's thrown back to the old days of serfdom and how if you were born a farmer, then you'd be a farmer and that's the only thing you could do. Is that true in today's society? So if you go start working for a company as a janitor, is that the only thing you might be in that company for the rest of your life? So you could possibly grow, correct? So would it make sense to actually have a table called jobs? We need sales, we need stock people, we need managers, we need janitors, and so on and so forth, right? And maybe in between here, we'll type something called payroll. And that keeps track of all the history of jobs that you've had over the years and the rates that you got paid, so that when I do an IRS audit or if I have to send you 10 W-2s, that I can go to the payroll table, run it, and say that, oh, half this year you were a janitor, the other half you became a teacher. Do you see how some of the stuff is not directly involved in here, but makes this stuff happen? Because the heart of any business is to do what? Yeah, this stuff right here. How do we make money? We offer products or services to customers. Now, this is where things get really advanced. We grew this database model out. We said, well, wait a minute. If we're going to be offering products, I need to be able to keep track of the inventory. If I'm going to be keeping track of the inventory, I need to buy these products from somebody. What else could we do to enhance the customer's experience? Give them the ability to create reviews. Have we not seen that on web pages now in every business? Rate that product. Hopefully, you guys are starting to understand database theory. Tuesday, when we come back together, we will actually explore Access. There's a My IT Lab assigned through Access. The first one I'll talk to you about the general layout. You'll be creating some general objects, maybe a table, a form, and a report. It's just a general overview of how these things work together, okay? The videos are there, the training is there to show you guys how to create it. You need to do that for me so that when Tuesday comes back, we can take this theory and actually dive into it. And what I'm going to be using on Tuesday's example would be what we finished off on last Tuesday, which would be the stock portfolio, okay? We are going to create a database that allows us to keep track of our stocks. What did we learn when it came to Excel? We couldn't keep track of the history of the transactions, correct? So I don't know how much money I totally made throughout the process. We will learn that on Tuesday using databases. You guys take care, have a good weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday.